I'd like to welcome everybody to the May meeting of the Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation Commission, and at this time we're going to call our meeting to order. Since this is our first meeting since the tornado that struck our community, I'd like to take a moment to recognize one of our own who we lost tragically in that, and that's Corey Bryant. As everyone knows, she and her young child were lost in the tornado, and Corey was a valued member of our department staff, and at this time I'd like to have a moment of silence in her honor. Thank you. Tim Tips is going to do the prayer and pledge for us. Tim?
Let us stand and let us bow. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to gather here to conduct the business of this commission for the benefit of this city. Obviously, Father, our hearts are heavy because of the losses of those that we have that have suffered greatly over the last few weeks. We pray that you would be with them and their families. We pray that you'd be with this city as it goes about the obligation of rebuilding. We pray that you would help our mayor and city council to do their job. We pray that you'd be with our law enforcement and public safety as they go about their difficult jobs as well. Go with us in the deliberations that we do today, dear Father, that it would be in accordance with thy will. And it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Let us place the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim. I believe everyone received their packet earlier in the week, and contained in that packet were the minutes from our April meeting. This time we'll entertain any changes or corrections that need to be made to the minute. And if there are none, motion for approval.
I move we approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Lanny, I believe you have an introduction you'd like to make.
Yes, sir. Before I introduce our new staff member, I'd like to introduce Miss Jennifer Warren. She is a city management intern with the city, working with city manager and deputy manager Rob Lyons. She'll be here for 3 months, so you may see her around. Jennifer, if you could stand and just be recognized. Okay. I wanted to bring it to your attention that she is here today to see what goes on in Parks and Recreation. We're proud to introduce today Miss Janelle Floyd, our new operations coordinator for Patterson Community Center. Miss Floyd is a graduate of Tennessee State University. She got her master's degree from Middle Tennessee State University. She went after her master's to intern with the NBA, the Indiana Pacers, and she was also an intern with the WNBA with the Indiana Fever. She moved on to the Indy Parks and Recreation Department, where she worked there in the sports program. She took a job with Metro Parks, where she has worked for 3.5 years, and we're proud to say that she is now an employee with the Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation Department. And the good thing about this is she grew up in the Patterson area. She was commuting back and forth to Nashville every day, and now she can walk to work. But I want to introduce Janelle Floyd and have her come to the microphone and say a few words to the commission.
That's great.
Good afternoon. I am Janelle Floyd, and I personally would like to thank the Parks and Recreation Commission, Mr. Lanny Goodwin, and Patterson Park Community Center Facility Superintendent, Mr. Tom Sage, for providing me an opportunity to serve as the new operations coordinator for Patterson Park. Like Mr. Goodwin said, I did grow up in the Patterson community, so it's indeed an honor and a privilege for me to serve and give back to the community. Once again, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you.
Right. Welcome to both of you guys. We'll move now to new business. Our first item under new business is an Old Fort Park demonstration improvement project overview.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we've been working with the Murfreesboro Water and Sewer Department on possible improvements at Old Fort Park that would address water quality issues, stormwater runoff, and create an educational venue for the park. We've met several times. There's a concept plan that we have developed, and we have two representatives here today. We have Mr. Robert Haley, who is a stormwater coordinator with the Murfreesboro Water Department, and also Mr. Kevin Gunther of Design Resources. And what we want to do today is we want to present you a plan of development for Old Fort Park, which is going to be very good for that facility. Number one, I think it's going to enhance the aesthetic beauty of the park, which is one of the things that we've been trying to do at Old Fort Park. You know, it's right there front and center on Old Fort Parkway. As you drive down, it's got some areas that could have some improvement. We have some issues with trash coming in the stormwater right there in the very front of the park, which this plan addresses. We have some problems with the stream that feeds into Lytle Creek, which this program addresses. And then also what it does, under the new stormwater management program that they have, they're looking for something that can show developers, residents, those kind of things, how they can develop their properties under the auspices of the new stormwater management plan. And what this would do is it would take several different areas and develop demonstration projects as you go through that park. So there would be several applications that would be relevant, that would be in accordance to the plan, but also would make improvements to the park as we do these. So with that introduction, what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask Mr. Robert Haley to come to the microphone and further elaborate on the program, and then he's going to introduce Mr. Kevin Gunther, who is going to come up and do a presentation on the possible development.
Thank you, Lanny, and good to be here, members of the commission. My name's Robert Haley with the Water and Sewer Department. My work with the city, or my job, has to do with surface water quality generally, in particular stormwater quality. The city is regulated under a state permit and federal regulations requiring us to keep stormwater runoff from all areas of the city, roads, parking lots, residential subdivisions, commercial areas, to make it as clean as we can. And so partly because of the requirements of that program, it involves public education and outreach. It involves what we call illicit discharge detection and elimination. It involves good housekeeping for city operations. So partly because of that, the city implemented a stormwater user fee went into effect November of 2007, and significant amount of those monies are budgeted for what we generally call stream restoration. So Lanny has expressed it well. The Old Fort Park was identified as a good area, the little stream running through there and Lytle Creek into which it flows. And so from a couple different places, the idea of restoration there was we wanted to move forward with that. So Kevin Gunther is the design expert, and I'm going to introduce him, and he can talk about the displays here. Please look at those later if you can, and That's it, Kevin. Gunther, I'll go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Haley and Mr. Goodwin. My pleasure to be here today. Very excited to be working on this project. I think it's truly an opportunity to see several goals achieved by the city for the residents. I'm going to go ahead and flip to a PowerPoint. It's easier for me to talk with images. And real briefly, these are the things I'm going to touch on today. What are some of the reasons for doing water quality and some of the basic tools, and then the site analysis and the preliminary plan that we came up with to date. One of the things that I really appreciate about this property, the park here, is that we have an opportunity to achieve multiple goals. And anytime I'm working in the landscape, I feel it's very important to do that. So not only are we looking at environmental qualities, a better soil, air, and water, but also the aesthetics, the emotional value of a space, the spiritual value of a space, and the market value and the uses proposed on that space. And I think that anything sustainable has to be something that people identify with long term. That is part of the definition. This is an approach that we've had to take at times, a simple ordinance of just walling things off, if you will, screening, protecting. And I think this is an opportunity to open up our toolkit, if you will, to do something more. We can't treat storm drainage like a waste product. Some of our past methods have done that, and I've been part of that, and I understand that we've had to do flood control. I think now we're starting to realize, in addition to flood control, water quality itself is very important. And even the basic ordinances that we have, although they get us our basic needs, as you see in this photograph, I think there's another way we can add more to the space. In this photograph, you'll see we provided for transportation, stormwater quality. We've even added a little bit of green on the fence to make it feel a little better. But I think there's other tools we can apply that take it to a better level. And then also, one more reason, as much as we love our lawnmowers, I don't think that is the only way and the long-term maintenance solution to our landscapes. Out at Old Fort Park, you'll see from these photographs the existing way that we are handling storm drainage can be improved on, even though these are existing methods that have been in place for some time, and they were done prior to the water quality ordinance. It's also important to understand in this project we have an opportunity to connect with a much larger watershed. We have about 86 acres draining into the site. And these water quality tools that I'm discussing have opportunities both at a small scale, residential scale, taking that into a land planning scale, and even a regional scale. And the city has been very good at providing greenways and looking at their drainage ways as a resource for recreation. This is one more way we can tie into that system. One of the tools that you can use is simply meadow restoration and native grasses. Creates a lot more biodiversity than your standard turf grass. And as you can see, these are examples right here from Middle Tennessee, out at Henry Horton State Park and the Stones River National Battlefield, of some of those approaches. Richard Siegel Park, a stream protection buffer. As you see in the left photograph, that was a degraded stream prior to the park. So as we developed the park, we had an opportunity to, simply by establishing that protection zone, create a much better habitat for not only the wildlife there, but for people using the park. One note that I feel very positive about is the last time I was out there, I did see a little covey of quail that I kicked up as I walked through there. That tells me we've succeeded in truly improving the habitat. Although there's not any more cows drinking from the stream, I'm sorry to say. But bioretention and rain gardens, this is something that can apply at many different scales. There's some very simple tools that are important to apply to that in terms of getting drainage within 24 to 36 hours, make sure you're using the right plant material, and making sure that the soils that you prepared underneath these rain gardens are done properly. One key thing I can say for water quality citywide that we could do would be to minimize compaction on our existing soils. That is a very important element and a tool that we need to use. Residential landscapes. I've worked with several residents who want to take these approaches and simply apply it to creeks or drainage ways on their own private property. So I think as we exemplify these things in the park and on park property, I think we'll see people getting excited about opportunities to do that in a private setting as well. And then one of the best ways we can handle water quality is to do what I call a treatment train, more than one type of water quality tool. We have an excellent opportunity for that at Old Fort Park. There's ways to take porous concrete combined with bioretention and native landscape material and tier those together, and it really does do the best job of treating the water. One more tool is green roofs. Although there's no green roofs proposed as part of this project, it's certainly something I think we'll see as a water quality tool in Middle Tennessee. So what we did is we did this site analysis and walked through the park, and I've appreciated working with staff and carefully looking at some of the areas that are out there. So what you see here is the site analysis plan, and I'm going to hone in on specific areas within that plan. One area is up by Highway 96, and we immediately recognize that there's a need to handle debris and sediment that's coming off of Highway 96. There's an existing sign that as we add landscape material to protect the stream, we can enhance the visual experience of those entering the park and even give them something to see that's unique coming into the park. Along the stream corridor itself, we recognized a need to create that protection buffer and control access points. As you can see from this photograph, although the water itself is not necessarily there's not a lot of erosion this is kind of at the headwaters of the stream. We definitely need to protect that edge and not mow right up to the edge of the stream itself. And at the same time, that provides a need for people to see and experience the water at controlled places. Treatment of parking lot runoff, there's great opportunities out there. Instead of the existing concrete channels and pipes that are in place, to implement something that has a more of a biological approach. And then you'll see at portions of the stream that are there now, there's virtually no cover and there's no naturalized zone. So we want to take from what you see at the bottom photograph and allow it to become what is currently on a portion of the stream before it empties into Lytle Creek on that upper photograph. Based on that site analysis, we did a master plan, and we realized this property has ways to implement several ordinances that are in the stormwater quality ordinance as it stands now. So I'm going to highlight some of those as we kind of walk through the park. The stream buffer and meadow restoration, one key part of that is, as far as creating a visual enhancement, do what I call a design edge to your spaces. Create a place where you really plant it with seasonal change in color. Create an edge where people understand this is going from a more manicured and highly maintained space to a more natural space. And you can see in these photographs there's ways of doing that with planting banks of grasses, drifts of grasses, and also wildflowers that come in with really bright color. That allows you to kind of naturalize center portions of those areas with that design edge that tells people, okay, you're transitioning from one zone to the other, and in a visual way where they can identify it as something aesthetically pleasing. Right up near both the parking lot and the existing structure, there's a wonderful opportunity to do what I had mentioned, that treatment train. And we have opportunities for both porous concrete, taking those into infiltration trenches, taking those into bioretention areas, and enhanced swales. Those are all three tools that we have in our ordinance now that we could demonstrate tying together on the site. And as you can see from these photographs, bioretention areas can be very natural, and as that middle photograph depicts, but they can also be very formal, as that bottom photograph depicts. Now, there is a maintenance cost with that formality, So as we've discussed this, we realize that even though we're taking some maintenance out of the mowing and out of the larger park regime, we fully understand that we're adding some maintenance up around the structures and in the areas where we're going to have a highly visible element of water quality. So we're trying to create a balancing act of not only aesthetics but maintenance as well. And then another tool we can use right down by the stream itself is create these controlled access points. What you do is you create a wood chip trail around the edge of that buffer zone. This allows both the maintenance people to understand this is the edge that we're coming to, this is where we have that transition zone, and it also provides people an opportunity to experience the space, gives them a clear way to access down to the stream, and is a wonderful place to also create educational opportunities, signage and so forth. So we highlight these areas of access, and we direct people there, and we place stones and other elements in the stream bank to protect the stream there, allowing the rest of the stream to go to that more natural approach. And just to summarize, I do believe that we are at a crossroads in the way that we handle water management. I applaud the City of Murfreesboro for looking at some of these new tools in their ordinance, and I believe that these issues will apply not only to water quality in the park and recreation of the city, but truly the lifestyle and the quality of life for the residents as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody have any questions of Kevin or Robert?
I have one, too.
Okay, Bill.
Is the golf course involved in this?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Is the golf course involved in this?
We're looking at treating some of the water that comes off the parking lot that would be near the golf course. At this point in time, we haven't expanded our study to include the golf course. I believe the city might be looking at other areas that are different projects. Is that correct, Robert? There is a place in the golf course where the water quality, there is a project, but it is not part of this one.
I notice we've had some blue flags around over there.
Did you want to speak to that more, Robert?
Well, I don't. I think there is a project of maybe a couple of like rain gardens there, but I'm not familiar with where it stands. Where are those flags?
Alongside the parking lot.
Okay. That's not related to this project, though.
Is this a budgeted item or proposed for the new budget?
I'll do the best I can to. Oh, go ahead.
This is the agreement came down from a mandate from the federal government. And it was not a funded mandate; it was an unfunded mandate, and that's where we had to start. Mr. Haley's department, which had, I think the budget's about a $2.5 or $2.8 million budget. That budget is solely funded by the $3.25 fee that's on our water and sewer bills every month. Within that budget, there's remediation money that we have to do projects such as this, and that's where that's being funded, is through that stormwater fee, because it's, to my understanding, it's something that we also have to do within the federally unfunded mandate to do some remediation projects, and this would be one of those projects that we would pick that would be funded through that stormwater fee.
So we have you said what, about a $2.5 million annual budget?
It's $2.5 million. That's roughly. We had to buy a jet vac truck and some different things that went through with that initial budget.
That's correct.
And who sets the $3.25? Is that the Water and Sewer Board, or is that the City Council?
It's the Water and Sewer Board makes a recommendation, and then we vote on the final.
And I know this is more of probably a question more germane to them and not us, but do we have that kind of surplus that it could be cut back?
Well, there's, Mr. Tips, I don't want to speak for Mr. Haley, but I think there's plenty of projects on the books when they start looking at addressing stormwater. One of the things that they have to do is they have to provide education to the public. And what this project does more than controlling, even though it does remediation of stormwater, and like he said, there's 86 acres that drain into this particular site that goes directly into Lytle Creek. It provides an educational venue for Mr. Haley and the Planning Commission and those folks to take developers to Old Fort Park and show them small applications that they may be able to put on a larger scale as they go through and do these things, because as plans come in for developments and so forth, they will be mandated to have certain elements in there that address these particular issues.
Since October of '08, that's when the stormwater policy was initiated by the city. Any development that came in after October of '08 is required to be able to go through this process. The $3.25 fee is based upon single-family units, which is imperviousness it's on each site. So, say State Farm, for instance, that has a lot of parking lot area, they're charged more than a normal single-family house that pays the $38 a year. So, I don't think that the city definitely, the city...
Just for example, I mean, everybody pays, even the city. Parks and Recreation pays into that fund somewhere around $15,000 a year for all the parks and the drainage. that's in the
Understand
park.
that, and if we can pay less, why shouldn't we? If we can.
I don't think it was... I feel confident speaking for the council. I don't think that we got into this as a moneymaker.
Right.
I think that we're we run a balanced budget that's on that program that we have right now. The sole goal that we have is not to have to take money.
I think
from
one of the things
general.
that was identified in terms of priority that needed to be done to address what was required under the law, that those were the types of, that was the fee, basically, that was needed to address those issues over the long term.
And how much is this project going to cost?
Mr. Haley, you want to address that?
I'll throw out a number about 350,000. Just that's the number that I've seen. We haven't done maybe final cost figuring, but preliminary estimate a little over 300,000.
If I'm wrong, Mr. Goodman, we don't have anything. The Parks and Recreation Commission doesn't really do anything with the funding on this project, do we?
No.
This is
No.
recommended.
What we're coming today is to show you a possibility of working with the Water and Sewer Department on this particular project, and in the end result, they meet their goal of what they need to do in terms of mitigation of stormwater and creating educational venues. From the park side, what we get is an improved park that's more aesthetic, and it adds educational opportunities for public as they come out. School groups, those kind of things, obviously will be utilizing those. So I think it's a win-win proposal. That's why we brought it to you today for your consideration and hopefully approval, so Mr. Haley can move forward.
Any other questions or comments regarding this project?
Well, I guess just one. I guess this is just a means of showing where the money's going to the citizens, and having, whether it's in this commission meeting or another commission meeting, at least it's out there to the public with what the city plans to do with the funds that they're bringing in on this particular.
Correct. And there's going to be many more projects. We've even talked about restoration of the Greenway area where the tornado went through. We've met down there on that particular project. We've got some other areas, because you have to think that the Greenway is on the Stones River. That's the collection point for stormwater. We have to address what is going into the river. What goes into the river affects all of us in the city, because it dictates the quality of water that is that we're drinking. And so we have to think about being good stewards and following the law and those kind of things. So this is a really good project, I think, to get started and kind of kickstart this whole program for.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? And you're wanting to approval of the...
Yes, I'd
project.
like to have approval
Okay.
of this proposal so they can move forward.
I need a motion for the approval of the project as presented.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? It's approved. Robert, Kevin, thank you, guys.
Good job.
Appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
Our next item under new business is a proposed bocce court at Mcknight Park, or like Mr. McFarland said, that Bocce court.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, we've been working with Mr. Dave Davis from Learn, which is a group that is organized to work with special needs kids. One of the things that they have proposed is building a bocce court that would be available to all the citizens. Mr. Davis and I have looked at many areas within the park system, and we've come up with an area we think that would be really kind of perfect for this setting, and that's right beside Sports Com. It would make availability for restrooms and picking up the equipment and so forth inside. And Mr. Davis is here today. I'm going to ask him to come to the podium and talk about, and also Mr. Fight is here from SportsCom. But they're going to explain to you how we came to get to this process and the location and so forth. And what we would look for here is approval for Mr. Davis for his group to move forward, but also an opportunity for you to see the project, see what we're proposing, and ask any questions that may be relevant to it.
Mr. Chairman and Commission members, I'm Bart Fight, Superintendent at SportsCom, and Mr. Dave Davis has come to us with a proposal to build a bocce court at SportsCom. I didn't know a lot about it. He came with us. I have had some people ask me at SportsCom, about we have a lot of area out there to build something, shuffleboard, bocce court, something like that. So when Mr. Davis came to us, it was great timing, for him to ask for this project to go through. Mr. Davis, he's been associated with a lot of activities in the community. He's very well thought of, and I'd just like for him to give you kind of a quick summary of his organizations, what they do, and what he has worked with in this community.
Thanks, Bart. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this project to you. It came about back in February or early March as an annual event that is put together by a coalition of 6 churches within Murfreesboro. Those churches are Antioch Primitive Baptist Church, Central Christian, First Baptist Church at East Main, First Presbyterian Church, St. Paul's Episcopal, and the St. Rose Catholic Church. And what they do is invite nonprofits to a meeting and ask them to submit a project proposal. Our organization, LEARN, which stands for Life Enrichment and Recreation Network, does a lot of sports activities with the special needs community, and so our proposal was to build a bocce court someplace in the city, and of course Parks and Recreation was the most likely place. And that's to be built for the enjoyment of the community at large, for the young, for the elderly, for everyone, because bocce is really a sport that is a family-oriented sport. And it's also a sport that Special Olympics does in their summer games. In fact, we have 2 teams that we're preparing to go to Vanderbilt on May the 15th and 16th. So we proposed this project. It was accepted, and I got together with Bart and Lanny, and they were kind enough to let me show them the project, and so that's what led to this point.
I think in your packet it shows where the court will be. It's on the northwest corner of the entrance of SportsCom, and we walked it walked it a couple of times. It's very level. We feel an ideal place to put this where we can monitor it from the front desk and keep equipment there for people to check out to play bocce. But bocce was really started, I did a little research back, some form of it was in the Greek and Roman days, back when me and Mr. Goodwin were growing up. But we feel like it'll be a very popular sport. I know if you've been by St. Rose, you've seen their 2 courts over there. I go by there quite a bit, and a lot of times there's a lot of people playing there. Mr. Davis has, proposed to come in. We say a project, but it's really going to be like a 6 to 8 hour project, 1-day project, and I will be glad to meet him and his crew there and make sure everything's going according to plan, and hopefully we'll pick a day, when it's not raining and got good weather to come in and put this in. And I'm coming to you today just to seek approval, and we believe it'll be a win-win situation. I think way the economy is, way the budgets are, co-oping with groups is going to be more popular than ever now. I think we'll get some things done. So, we think it's a win-win situation. We've worked with Mr. Davis and his group on the basketball clinics. I know we had MTSU and some of their players come out, had about 50 kids, and they run a well-organized group. And, we're glad to work with him, appreciate him coming to us with this proposal, and I'm seeking your approval.
Any questions for Bart or Dave?
According to the proposal, there's no cost to the city for that.
There's no cost to the city, and we have gotten some folks that will help us with the materials. I've spoken with Lowe's, and then if we need some turf, with Southeastern Turf, and they're going to help us out with that. And then our organization, Learn, and First Baptist Church will also contributing, so no cost at all.
Now, that's a win-win.
That's a win-win, isn't it?
The picture that you have of that one bocce court, that's one that's over at the Williamson County Parks, and that's what we chose to follow as a model, and so that's what it'll look like when we're done.
Any other questions? There are none. We need a motion for approval of the project.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Project's approved. Bart, Dave, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 under new business is a proposed Civil War trail program. Laney?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce had a meeting not too long ago. There was several folks there that represented Rutherford County, Oakland's Association, the National Battlefield, Sam Davis Home, several other places. And they were discussing the possibility of having the National Civil War Trails Program implemented in the state of Tennessee. And, of course, what that would do is that attracts more tourists into our area. We're looking at, in Rutherford County, putting in, I think, 10 different wayside exhibits. There would be signs on different roads, interstates, and so forth that would direct people to this. But it is very popular. There's a website. It gets a lot of hits on that website as people travel. They're looking for these particular venues, and it's really an interesting program. Ms. Mona Herring from the Chamber of Commerce, who heads the tourist division bureau for Rutherford County, she's here, and she is going to discuss this and give you more information and talk about what their mission is at the Chamber with this program. Ms. Herring.
Thank you, Lanny, and thank you, Commission. The Civil War Trails Program is a program, it's a multi-state program that identifies and interprets and directs visitors to both well-known and lesser-known Civil War sites. Using directional road signage and colorful interpretive markers. This is actually a picture of the markers that will be on the roadsides, pointing our visitors to the trail markers. The program also develops statewide driving tour brochures that direct visitors to the sites in the marker program. And I have put one of these at each of your sites. This is one from North Carolina that I have, and I think there are some other ones as well. This program is going to open us up to a national audience, and it's in preparation for the sesquicentennial celebration of the Civil War. That's the 150th anniversary of the Civil War that is approaching us in 2011. And we would like to implement this in time for that so that we will be prepared when we have this influx of visitors coming to see us for the sesquicentennial. In 2005, this program was begun by the State Department of Tourism, and they received a grant of $537,000. It's a federal enhancement matching grant that the Tourism Department received from the Tennessee Department of Transportation with the support of Governor Phil Bredesen. The initial grant from TDOT provides an 80-20 federal match, which allows the Department of Tourist Development to implement the program with the majority of the costs and fees covered. The program grant pays for 80% of the administration, signage, and maintenance, a total of $4,440 for each participating site. Communities are asked to pay the 20% match. This match requires a one-time fee of $1,100 per sign for each marker, plus a recurring annual maintenance fee of $200. And that provides for development, design, fabrication, installation of the interpretive markers. It also includes fabrication of additional directional trailblazer signs that will lead people to the markers. The site is responsible for taking care of the ground maintenance and notifying the Civil War Trails program when markers become damaged or require repairs. The $200 annual maintenance fee takes care of all of the maintenance of the sign, and it is replaced every 5 years, no matter what happens. But if it was damaged in any way for 3 years in a row, it would be taken care of because of that $200 annual fee. Tennessee does not have a comprehensive statewide marker and signage program before, but this will create one for us. And I think it will bring a huge number of tourists to our area and really open us up for that Civil War experience in 2011 when that sesquicentennial project starts. I guess what I'm doing here today is to ask your permission to possibly put 3 signs in the Greenway area, one at the General Bragg Trailhead, one at Thompson Lane Trailhead, and possibly another one at Old Fort Park on the Greenway. And these signs would be paid for, and the maintenance would be taken care of by the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We feel it's a very important project. We think that these are 3 very important sites, and we're here today asking for your permission to put those markers on property, which we would work with you all to decide the location, the best location. Also, the Stones River National Battlefield staff is offered to help us with the interpretation of the sites, putting the proper information on and images on those markers. So basically, we're just asking for your permission to do that to attract more people to the Greenway. We feel like the Greenway is a great location because it will point people on the Greenway to the interpretive sites that are already there, the signs that you already have on the Greenway.
That's great. Do you have any questions for Mona? Just curiosity, Mona, how many signs overall will we have in Rutherford County?
Right now, we're looking at 10.
Okay. That's a great program.
And most of those signs, we're paying for those through the CVB. The maintenance is being handled by the sites themselves, but we've offered to do that for the city because the city has always been a great partner for us with spring fling and everything we do. It's our way to give back.
It's fantastic. If there are no questions, we need a motion for approval of this request.
I move that we approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you very much.
Mona, thank you. Item 4 under new business is an update on the Murfreesboro Soccer League program, and I believe we have some guests, Lanny, that you're going to introduce.
Yes, sir, we do. We have some guests from Murfreesboro Soccer Club here today. They have been going through some changes in their program, which has sparked some questions. And what I did is I asked them to come to the commission today to talk about their program, where they're taking it, the types of changes that they've made. And I've asked Mr. Thomas Laird, who works with the Murfreesboro Soccer Club from our department, he's our liaison, to come as well. And I'm going to let Thomas kind of introduce what they're going to talk about, and then from there he will introduce Mr. Bill Terry. He will come up and talk about what they're doing in terms of the soccer program.
Well, as you well know, about 6 years ago, the Murfreesboro Soccer Club moved into Richard Siegel Park. And up until that time, there was not a lot of city involvement as far as what the club did, as far as liaison. I mean, of course, we signed a contract with the club, but we did not actually have an athletic person assigned to that particular club. So when they moved to Richard Siegel Park, we wanted to form a tighter bond. And one of the things that is my first year on the job that I found a big need for, and our former director, Dennis Renier, worked hard at too, was getting the club itself into one solid unit. We had the select side, and then we had the rec side. The select is the more competitive teams. And at that time, it seemed like each individual team had a voice of their own, and there was no unit. So I was getting calls from 10 to 12 different team managers and coaches needing lights, fields, and it literally had turned into a beat them to the punch to get things scheduled. So upon Mr. Renier's recommendation, we brought it to the board of the soccer MSC to bring it together and to assign a committee to regulate the select program. And they did that. And they've had a committee, and a representative, Bill Terry, was a select representative who worked directly with the city on the select side. And that worked out really well. The number of calls, the number of complaints, the number of issues reduced dramatically. As the club went on, and now there's 28 board members that govern entire soccer throughout Murfreesboro. There's 1,500 recreational players and a little over 400 select players and about 200 adult players. So we're talking about 2,100 participants in this one organization, which is one of the larger organizations in Murfreesboro. They're governed by a 28-member board, and some of the things that have been going on throughout soccer throughout the country are some of the things that have been brought to the board's attention by various members, parents, coaches, managers, etc. And that's the direction that soccer has decided to go, and some of these members of the MSC board has come. I'm not going to get into it, that around the country it is a trend, and soccer itself is moving towards an academy-style program which puts all the kids together, allows them to train together, allows them to perfect their skills at the younger age groups so they can progress through. And that's what Murfreesboro Soccer is attempting to do now with a modified program. They're not going one solid way into the academy, but they're moving it towards a modified program. And there has been some resistance, but on my side, out of 2,000 participants, I think I've had maybe 2 calls and 2 emails. So I think that's pretty good. In my opinion, that's going the right way, because my phone's usually the first one that rings when someone's not happy. So with that, I'm going to present Bill Terry, he is the select representative for MSC, and he's going to explain this new program.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. I've also today from the Murfreesboro Soccer Board, I have Mr. Doug DeRoss and Miss Leanna Wright. I'll have them step up here as well. I think Thomas did a good job explaining the direction we're going with the academy program. I guess when we get to the changes in soccer, we're down to 2 changes in our program for the select side. I guess before I get to those changes, what I might want to give you just a little insight as to what brought us to these changes. When we moved to Siegel Park 3 years ago, we came to Siegel with 12 select teams, 2 formed that same year. So we started with 14 teams at that point. And as Thomas said, we're now up to 29 teams, which is, soccer has really boomed with 2,100 kids. It's a lot of interest in the community. When we moved there, we met with Select and asked what were the 3 hot topics that they wanted to see us work on and achieve. The 3 main points: they wanted us to go to a standardized uniform, which we have now done. They wanted us to have a professional website, which we have. If you visit MurfreesboroSelectSoccer.com, it's a managed website, very professional. All the teams have a presence on there. They can administer their own websites. That's something that's furnished via the Select program. The 3rd topic was Director of Coaching. And that one we have finally achieved. We hired a Director of Coaching in August of 2008. We hired Coach Bill Weiss. He holds a USSF A license, one of the highest classification of licensure in the nation. Matter of fact, he's number, I believe it's 284 on his license, so he was the 284th person to achieve his A license in the United States. He's been in soccer for over 37 years, a wealth of information. When the Murfreesboro Soccer Board hired Coach Weiss in 2008, his initial push was we wanted him to focus on the recreational program. As you know, with Murfreesboro Soccer, all of our coaches are volunteers, as is the board and pretty much everybody. It's a volunteer organization. Coach Weiss is the only paid employee that we have. Everybody else volunteers their times and efforts. We ask him to focus on rec, help those volunteer coaches get some additional training. He's out there every Saturday working with coaches, working with kids. He implemented a developmental program for our U6 through U8s. He's running that. He ran that through the fall. He's running that now in the spring. He does a U8 session every Friday night for boys and girls. He does U10 through 14 on Saturdays. That was his initial push, what we wanted him to focus on, help the development of the younger kids from 6 through 8. Also in that, we asked him to evaluate the Select program and come back to us sometime after the first of the year in 2009 with recommendations on some changes that we might need to make in Select to better develop the younger ages. Really, the 2 changes that were made were the 2 areas that typically we have the most issues with. And the first change we made was through the tryout process. In the past, we've always let the teams have their own individual tryouts, which unfortunately worked fairly well. However, I typically would always get phone calls after the tryout process from parents who were upset that their child didn't make a certain team. There was always, I won't say politics involved, friendships involved, but there was always some child that did not make a team that the parent felt like they should have been on. We asked Coach Weiss to look at that process. He has put a tryout plan in place, a standardized tryout. He has worked with the area high school coaches, who all have national license, to come out and be unbiased evaluators. They will attend every tryout session. They will evaluate the children, rank them based on the skills that they see. And once that evaluation's done, then Coach Weiss will sit down with the coaches with their input as well, because obviously anybody could have a bad day, have a bad tryout. So we want the coaches' input. They will sit down and help formulate the teams from those unbiased evaluations. The second change that we were looking at is going to what is called academy-style training for 9s and 10-year-olds. I don't know, did anybody see the Daily News Journal this morning, the article by Duncan Stewart? Kind of timely. That's exactly what we're trying to prevent. We want the focus for our 9s and 10-year-olds to be on development. Try to take some of the overall competitiveness out of it. Now, every child needs to play. They need to play games. They need to be challenged. But the overall look from the the U.S. Soccer Federation, U.S. Youth Soccer, Tennessee State Soccer, everybody is coming down to they want to have the youth do more academy-style, focus on just development and skills, play games, but don't put that overall competitiveness out there until they say 12-year-olds. We're just wanting to do it for 9s and 10s. We are actually one of the last clubs to do this. Franklin has been doing academy style for the last year. Brentwood is actually doing academy style for 9s through 12s. They've taken it a step up. Hendersonville is doing academy style, and Smyrna is doing academy style. We were really one of the last clubs to adopt the process, but we wanted, sometimes being last is good because we were able to see some of the benefit from what they went through the last year and gave Coach Weiss plenty of time to try to put a plan in place for what we're wanting to do. I think at the end of the day, he's put together a solid program. We're calling it Modified Academy. It's not going to be just fully parity where kids come out and they're just totally divided, and mixed up constantly. We want to continue to have teams. They'll still continue to play games on weekends like they do now. They'll still continue to go to tournaments. The only difference in going to tournaments will be that the academy directors will try to take a group of children that are somewhat equal in skill sets and send them to a tournament that they can be competitive and successful at. That's the change in a nutshell. Anything that you'd like to add that I've left out? Either one. Okay. Well, I guess probably should define academy. Academy style is all of the children will train together. They bring them in. For instance, if there's 40 U9 boys, those 40 U9 boys would come in together with the academy director. He would give them a skill set. They would work on that skill set. They would then break into smaller groups and continue to work on that skill set with an individual instructor. Modified Academy is that they will take and try to pair, again, like skill sets. So if he comes out and does a skill and you've got 10 boys that just, man, they nail it and they're really good at it. Well, the coach is going to take those 10 boys over to the side. They're going to continue with that skill set, but he's going to add something to that to challenge them. If you've got 10 that they've almost got it but not quite, well, a different coach is going to take them, and they're going to continue to work on it till they get it. And if you've got some that they just don't have a clue, a coach is going to take them and continue to work on the basics and the fundamentals to try to get them to that level. Our goal is, and it's a goal of every club, historically, 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s, they play small-sided games. U11 or U13 and above, they go to 11v11. Every club always has that challenge once they go to 11v11 to have a large enough pool of players to have a strong, successful team. We're trying to build that framework now, U9s, U10s, skills and development to get their foot skills and their development and their mindset in soccer so that as they grow up, we don't burn them out at a young age. And when we hit those older ages, we can have multiple teams based on their skills. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Questions or comments? Do we need to prove these changes?
No.
No, this is just informational.
No, this is just informational. I know that we had received some phone calls. I've met with Mr. Terry, and I've met with some other people that had some concerns about the changes, and I just thought it would be appropriate to go ahead and ask the Murfreesboro Soccer Club to come forward today, because you may be receiving a call, and I would want you updated on what this club is doing and what their goal is and what their mission is for developing a soccer program for the city of Murfreesboro. So with that, if you have any questions for Mr. Terry or anybody in the club, just feel free. I'm sure that we've wore him out over the last couple of weeks, and I know that they're having informational meetings right now with the different age groups. I think you have one tonight. Is that right, Bill?
Yes, sir. We met with the 8v8 group, which is U11s and 12s, last Wednesday night. It was interesting because they even actually asked us if we would implement the academy program for their age groups. And we said no, we're taking it one step at a time. Tonight we meet with the 6v6 groups, which is the U9s and U10s. The following Monday night we meet with all of the 11v11 teams, U13 and above. We're trying to bring each group in individually. That's been one of the, I guess, the heartaches of growth is, with 29 teams and you try to have a meeting, a select meeting, 29 teams, they bring in a manager, possibly a co-manager, the coach, and the assistant coach. We were finding ourselves in a situation where we were trying to have a meeting with 80 or 90 people, and as you know, you just cannot conduct a meeting with that many people with 3 or 4 different interests. So we have broken it down by age group and by format, and we're now bringing them in individually. The first meeting went very well. A nice small group. Everybody was able to ask questions, get their questions answered, and every question was pertinent to that group. And that's how we'd like to continue on with our meetings and with the program.
Any questions or comments?
Great job.
Well, I'll tell you guys, I appreciate what you do. As a parent of a striker, I'm completely behind what you guys are doing, and I think I can speak for most of the folks on our program.
Well, as Thomas said, I've had more positives than I have negatives. We knew we were going to have some negatives. Change is always brutal. We knew it was coming, but we felt like with the experience that Coach Vice brings to the table, we know he knows what he's talking about, and we feel like it'll be a successful program for Murfreesboro.
Well, thank you guys for what you do.
And one last thing, thank you for Richard Siegel Soccer Park. I've been from one side of the state to the other. There's none better, bar none.
I agree.
It's the best park in the state.
Thank you, guys. Item 5 under new business is a review for the Murfreesboro Housing Authority grant program, Project Go.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure to have Ms. Patsy Nolan and Ms. Sheila Hodges here today. We've been, as a department, working with the Housing Authority on the Project Go program for since really kind of the early 90s, I guess, which has been a long time. It's served hundreds of children. Of course, it's funded through the Murfreesboro Housing Authority, and our programs are focused in the different housing units throughout the city. And Pat is here, Pat Nolan, Ms. Pat Nolan, who is the Executive Director of the Housing Authority. And she's going to kind of take you back through the history of how we got started and some of the things that we have done and successes that we've had. I know we even went to Washington, D.C. and was presented a national award for the combination program that we have over at one of our units. So a combination of working with the Police Department, Murfreesboro City Schools, and Parks and Recreation has really made a really good environment in these different units. It's made a lot of difference and changes in people's lives. There's a lot of success stories that has come out of this, and we're just really proud to to present this to you today. So, Pat?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goodwin, and thanks to all of you for the opportunity to come today and sort of brag a little bit about our great collaborative effort over the past many years. I am Pat Nolan. I'm Executive Director for Murfreesboro Housing Authority, and I've served in that capacity for 11 years now, and prior to that as Deputy for 7 years. So I got to know Mr. Goodwin and Mr. Rainier really well in those early years, did I not, Lanny? Sheila has given me the job of giving you the history, and I get to tell the stories, so that's the fun part, okay? Back in the early 90s, for those of you who lived in Murfreesboro during that time, you will know that two of the developments of Murfreesboro Housing Authority were pretty well known as the places that you could go to get drugs or there was crime going on all the time. That would have been the Franklin Heights and the Highland Heights property. And the Murfreesboro Housing Authority was lucky enough to get its first drug elimination grant through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development back then. It was a $100,000 grant. We partnered with the police department to walk a beat in those properties and to try to get rid of the drugs and crime. But we also had a problem because we had kids ages 10, 12 years old who were acting as drug runners for these dealers over there. And we got with Dennis and with Lanny, with Parks and Rec, and they came up with a program called Project Go. Terry Womack, who was one of the staff members at that time and still is with us today, this was her brainchild, and it was a program that was designed for after school for the kids so that they could set goals, and then if they met those goals throughout the year, they got to go on field trips. And so many of you have heard these stories, but I always enjoy telling them again. And one of the big field trips in the early years was when Terry Womack took those kids on a big school bus and they went down to Gatlinburg, to the Smoky Mountains. And they're driving through Cades Cove, and you have to realize that our kids oftentimes really never get out. They never get out of their world. They go to school, they come back home to the developments, and many of them, they don't even go to the mall. They don't get to do that sort of thing. And so for these kids, this was a huge adventure. And so the bus is driving through Cades Cove, and one little boy yells from the back of the bus, Miss Terry, there's a deer. Does that mean this is a forest? You know, those kinds of things, because he'd never seen that sort of thing before. So that is so special. With some of the drug elimination money, we bought fishing poles, and we took them. Lanny loves to tell this story. We took them down to Percy Priest Lake to go fishing. And one little boy jumps off the bus, and he holds his arms wide, and he says, "Look, it's the ocean. I never saw the ocean before." And, you know, it's just so special that you're able to show these children what's beyond the housing developments and their little world. It opens it up for them, and that's so special. So during those early years, when we had headlines like the police drug bust, and where an officer was undercover for 66 days at the Franklin Heights property, and the sting got 26 suspects. And we went from that to articles on the front page of the Sun about Project Go as an important part of keeping children safe. So all those good things. Ms. Mathis is sitting on your board today, and I couldn't pass up an opportunity to talk about the wonderful partnership that we've had with Murfreesboro City Schools too. Having preschools within the developments has made all the difference in the world. And we continue to enjoy that today. We have 6 preschools right in our developments, so that's so important. Another little story, we had a visit. This is a story about Sheila Hodges. We had a little visit one day from the HUD folks, They came to do a review about, you remember those days, don't you? They came to do a review about our drug elimination program. And one of the ladies in particular was really coming down hard on Sheila because she had purchased some T-shirts for the kids for some special event and given her a hard time. And so I overheard the conversation, and I came out and I said, well, maybe it's time we go for a little ride. You want to go for a little field trip? We'll go over and we'll see where the Project Go program is conducted and so forth. So we went over to January Street, and we pulled up, and we talked then about the police department is in this unit, and next door is Project Go, and this is held each day in the afternoon and so forth. And within about 10 minutes, I'd say, this lady said, come on, Sheila, sit down. I want to tell you how you can do this, and it'll be okay. You know, so she won her over with her program, and that was just, and to this day, I hear those stories because those two ladies who came to check on us went back to the office and said, that's the most wonderful program that I've ever seen in the state. So we're really proud of that. The program has gone on to win lots of local, state, and national awards, and we've had an opportunity to travel and do a lot of that. To tell our story, to tell about the collaborative efforts. Folks in the audience always want to know, every time they ask this question, but don't you all have turf wars? I mean, well, no, we have a common goal, and that goal is to help those kids, to help those families, to help them up the ladder to self-sufficiency, to get it going on so we can help the others who are coming behind them. And that's what it's been all about. It's been an absolutely wonderful collaborative effort. We appreciate all that Parks and Rec has done for us. And today we have wonderful programs that are going on. Sheila is going to share some of that about our current activities.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Laney. It's been a wonderful adventure working for Patsy. The partnerships is unique, and Patsy's exactly right. Every time we go somewhere, that's the question we get asked. Do you not step on city schools' turf? No, we're partners, and we make this work. I gave you a little brochure about our program, and if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them afterwards. I have a little slideshow that kind of made it a little bit easier to show you some of the activities that we do every single day. It may tell the story a little bit better than I can just stand up here and talk to you. But I do want you to know I appreciate working with Patsy over the years, with Patsy and Lanny together, and, of course, Dennis Rainier when he was here. But the partnerships we have throughout the city are just wonderful. But got a little slideshow for you, and thanks to Jenny. I appreciate you putting that together for you. And Patsy and I are going to tag team on this. In case I forget to add something, she'll add it for you. But just a little slideshow. This is some of the programs that we do with the ambulance service, just family nights that we have that we're in partnership with CADCOM, city schools, Rutherford County Health Department, the fire department, police department, some kids playing games in our after-school program. Now, we are stationed at 3 sites, and one of them is Patterson Community Center, and anyone that comes in Patterson Community Center are more than welcome to come to our program. You don't have to live in public housing. Anybody that comes there are more than welcome. We're at Oakland Court, and we're in Franklin Heights, and we try to provide as many recreational programs that we can to keep the kids busy and off the streets. And as the slideshow goes, you can see we have a variety of kids, and we try to keep them busy. Cooking classes offered by TSU, UT Extension Office. We have 4-H in our sites, Boys and Girls Club, just a variety of activities we do. CADCOR is one of our big sponsors that helps us out with some funding. Fishing, Greenhouse Ministries takes us on a fishing trip every single year, and you'll not believe one of our kids, he was really bad, and he said, I think I want to be a fisherman when I grow up. I don't think I've ever had anyone to tell me they want to be a fisherman when they grow up, so I thought that was pretty cool. So we try to show them some activities outside of where they live and the environment they live in. We have different speakers come in, like you saw the police department, to do educational classes. We try to well-round them, different activities. Patsy said we've received a few awards. One of the awards we recently received was on our gardening class at Oakland's Mansion. Patsy and I got the opportunity to go to Nashville and receive that award, and it was very rewarding to receive that. And Patsy, you want to tell me a little about that award?
Oh, well, I think I might take this opportunity to present you with a copy of that award. How about that? You probably needed something for your wall, or maybe Mr. Goodwin does. So there you go. It is a 2008 National Award of Merit, and it is presented by the National Association of Housing. These we don't come by easily, so when we get one, it's a pretty special thing. Gardening with Dr. Dirt is a program that was conducted over at Oakland's Mansion, and it was in partnership with Health Department, Oakland's, MTSU professor. The kids called him Dr. Dirt, and it was just a great program. In those raised beds over at Oakland's, they raised vegetables, tended them throughout the summer, collected their vegetables, and cooked a dinner for their parents, and I got to go and eat soup, and it was wonderful. Those kids were so excited. The first year they were not so excited, were they?
No, we had to carry water. And
they did not like it. Was not fun. Had to carry water, such as that. But the second year, Sheila comes to my office and she says, they're standing in line waiting to plant the garden. So, you know, they love it. And they love the staff. And we can't say enough good things about the staff. They've just been wonderful. And one of our staff members now is one of the kids who grew up in Project Go. And I think that's a real special story, too. Great young man. So those things do happen. And those are the miracles that you create with the partnerships. And we appreciate you for that. Look there, he's grabbing your award.
That's fine.
Thank you. Isn't that great?
That's great.
That's a good one. Now, we're going to try for another one this year.
We'll get it too.
Thank you all.
Thank you for the update. Thank you for the work you guys do.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your well-deserved award. Final item under new business is an update on information on Safari Bash.
Yes, and before we go there, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Pat and Sheila for coming today and that great presentation, and invite the commission, next time we go on the fishing trip, invite you along. It's really a challenge to bait about 50 hooks and dodge 50 hooks at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and they do catch some fish. All right, the next thing is information on the Safari Bash, and Mr. Tom Sage from Patterson is here to present that.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Lanny. Before I get into this, I would like to make a comment about Project Go. We are absolutely thrilled to have Sheila Hodges and Pat Nolan in the Project Go project at Patterson. It fits in great with all our after-school activities, and I don't know what we'd do without it, but I want to myself commend them. I'm here to talk to the general public, basically, and tell them about a great program we got at the end of the month. I know we're getting on in the meeting, and I will be brief. We are reaching a watershed moment here in a couple of weeks with a lot of our children getting out of school. Parks and Rec is always busy, but we go at the community centers from 4th gear to 5th gear when the kids get out of school, because we have a lot of the kids come over to the centers. And at that time when school's out, we traditionally at the centers have some special activities. It's just kind of the highlight to end the school year and kick off the summer. And we do one every year at the end of school. And this year, the staff has come together, and we're calling it Safari Bash and Splash. And it's going to be May 29th. That'll be a Friday evening from 6 to 10 o'clock for children from ages 8 to 12. And this is we've done these type of events before. Like I said, the theme this year will be the safari theme. But we'll combine swimming with arts and crafts. We'll be showing movies. We will also be serving pizza to the children. The parents can bring their children if they're in that age group. They can sign up for this ahead of time. They can drop the children off, or they're welcome to stay at the center and they use the center themselves while their children are in the program. I did want to bring it to the public's attention because this is a very popular program. We do have pre-registration. We do have limited space. The cost is, if there is space that night, it'll cost $7 to get in. But if you pre-register, not only do you secure a spot in the program, but it just costs you $5 for your child to be in it. And I think that about covers it. But I just encourage people to participate in this program. Usually it fills up for us, all the staff's involved, and it's usually a great evening for the kids and parents alike.
All right. Tom, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, since this is a fee-based program, we would ask for approval of the proposed fees.
Okay. Need a motion for approval of this program.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Tom, thanks again.
Mr. Chairman, we have one more item that we've added to the agenda, and that's a report on the Senior National Health and Fitness Day, and an update on the 4th of July. And Miss Marlene Sewell is here, and I think she's got one other item she wants to mention while she's there.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here today. First thing I want to talk about is National Senior Health and Fitness Day, which is Wednesday, May 27th. It's always the last Wednesday of May, and I was really surprised to realize we'd been doing this 10 years. This is a joint program between St. Clair Street Senior Center and the Mid-Cumberland Nutrition Program. This year we're not going to be playing quite as much as we did last year, but we start at 8:30 in the morning with registration. 9 o'clock we do the introduction, a proclamation, and we have an opening session speaker. And then from 9:50 to 11:30 we'll be breaking out into sessions, some of which will include games to play when you're a senior, skin care, breast awareness, proper nutrition, back care, and new fitness activities. And then at 11:30 we'll have a closing session with some activities, and at noon we'll have lunch, and so all the participants who sign up will be able to have lunch with us. I'm wearing one of the door prizes that you get for participating. I thought I'd just give a little plug for that one. And the deadline for signing up for this event is Friday, May 15th. You can do so at the St. Clair Street Senior Center or call 848-2550. And you can get more information by calling my office or calling Lisa Foster at the Senior Center. Any questions? Anybody besides me old enough to participate? Okay, fine. Next, we passed out lists of the movies and the star selection for this year. This is a family activity open to all ages, all shapes and sizes of families. And just for the record, all the movies are PG or G, and they're all family-oriented, and also approved by Mr. Goodwin. As you can see, we start at 8:30 every evening. Monday nights we're at Old Fort Park near the new pavilion and the tennis courts. Tuesdays we're out in front of the Welcome Center at Cannonsburg. Thursday night we're out at Siegel Neighborhood Park. And Friday we'll be at Mitchell Nelson Primary. We've been there for many years. And Saturday nights we're at Hopgood Elementary School. And that's probably, of this group, the longest running site. For a list of movies, the general public can call 890-5333 or check the email at recreation@murfreesborotn.gov. And Jenny will send that back to you then. Lanny also asked me to give you a little information about July 4th, our celebration under the STARS program. And I do want to thank MTSU for all the years of hard work and all the help they've given us through the years. As you all know, or maybe don't know, we've moved to Mcknight Park this year. Before we start our activities, SportsCom will be having Rock the Pool. 5 o'clock, the family games and activities begin. And then, of course, we'll have our welcome. 8 o'clock, the symphony will be playing. And at 9 o'clock, we'll be showing the fireworks. And we only received one bid. And fortunately, it was Power Shows. It's not been approved yet by City Council. But Mr. Hill has also indicated he will send back the same staff that has been shooting off the fireworks for us. So that's a great piece of information and really easy to work with. And then we'll be releasing additional information on, where to park, how to get in and out of the park, and where the different venues within the park will be. So, like I said, we'll be getting out more information in June so the public will know where to go. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hope you'll come out and see some of these.
You have anything, Tim?
I just said, that's going to be quite a challenge for parking, is it not?
Well, but we've also got a little bit of because we use Sportscom and Mcknight Park for Spring Fling, we've kind of got, an early handle on that. And so we've already thought about some of the stuff, but yeah. But there's also be a lot of other places that if you didn't want to come into the park, that you'd be able to park and see the fireworks.
Plus, Mr. Tips, we're working in coordination with the Murfreesboro Airport Authority.
That was the next question. It's going to be quite interesting.
They're on board. There'll actually be a time that there'll be a no-fly zone around that particular area. Planes will be diverted to other airports. All the people that will fly in and out of Murfreesboro Airport will know way in advance what's going on. We plan right after the fireworks to have that back and open and available. But we really thank the Murfreesboro Airport Authority for working with us. We think it's going to be a great show. It's going to be much like what you've seen at MTSU, but like Marlene says, MTSU is growing. The site that we usually had this on is the site, I think, of the new Student Center. So we're having to move on to different venues, and Mcknight Park seemed to be the best. We looked at many sites around town, but there are other areas around the site. Of course, there's Kroger, State Farm, many churches around the areas. You'll be able to see the fireworks probably for about 3 to 5 miles. So it's going to be a great show. We just want to let folks know that if you want to participate and get a parking place, come early. Family games and activities start at 5, but you can come out and participate in the bash that we'll have at Sportscom, and that will just continue right into the family games and activities. So it'll be a fun day.
That's great. Any other questions or comments for Marlene?
Thank you.
Marlene, thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of stuff.
Mr. Chairman, the last thing I want to mention, and just to remind folks that Spring Fling is just right around the corner. It starts May the 18th and runs through May the 23rd. And we invite the public out to come to those great venues. We will have all the sports, and of course Richard Siegel Park will be full of great soccer and tennis, and we'll be at Old Fort Park, and we'll be playing softball at Mcknight Park, and we'll be busy that week. That is an intense week for our department. We actually shut the leagues down, particularly through that particular week, and they're really good to work with us. They run the concessions in those particular areas. We appreciate their participation, and we ask folks to come to Spring Fling. We invite the commission to come out. We can always stand more volunteers. Mona, that was here earlier, she was telling me she already put an order in for, I think, 980 volunteer shirts this year. So that tells you the effort that it takes to put on the Spring Fling.
It's a lot of fun.
And Chairman, the Murfreesboro Half Marathon registration opened up May the 1st.
That's correct.
And we are over 300 runners already who've registered in 6 days, which puts us about, couldn't make the board meeting yesterday, but I think we're over 120 or 30 more than we've had
That's correct.
in the years past. So we are still going to have the race in October, and it's going to
Plus, we're having the Children's Fun Run.
That's
too.
correct.
So if you have children that's interested in doing the fun run, which is a 1-mile fun run that starts immediately after the half marathon starts, then need to go to the website and check it out.
And you're probably going to ask the same question that Vice Mayor Brochures asked. He wanted to know if he could do the fun run, and there is an age limit on running the fun run. So it is a kid's fun run.
Glad you clarified that.
No problem.
Right. Okay. I think that's it.
Anything else to come before the commission? Well, thanks for your patience. We got a lot done today, and we stand adjourned.